Some Seminarians is proudly brought to you by the Vocation Office of the Archdiocese of San Antonio.
Hi, and welcome back to Some Seminarians. My name is Erick, and I'm joined by two other seminarians.
I'm John Bonnin. Hello.
Javier Ramos.
And today we're going to be talking a bit about our own vocation stories. So you've definitely either, if you've been watching or listening to Some Seminarians, you've seen me and John. But Javier is new to the podcast, so first of all, welcome.
Yes, thank you. This is my first podcast. Because this is my first year of seminary, just finishing up the first year.
Awesome. And so, like I said, we're going to talk about our own vocation stories and what brought us to the seminary. So, when did you start thinking about that this might be your calling in life?
For me, it was a very fast call in a sense that right out of high school, I did have this as an option to go into the seminary, but I instead opted to go for my career. I was in college before I entered the seminary, community college at St. Philip's here in San Antonio.
Nice.
And then it was midway through all that I felt the call to go to the seminary, and that's when I decided to start applying and investigating more about what the seminary is. Because that was mostly my curiosity, like, what do you do here? What do you learn? What do you have to do to even apply? Do you have to be sort of qualified for certain things? So it was a very long process in a sense that it was all new because I went into it pretty fast.
Wow, dude. What did it feel like for you to feel that call or start feeling that curiosity?
Oh, it was life-changing for sure. It was a sense of a whole new life, completely turning what you already had. As I said, I was doing my career, I was working, and then out of nowhere, just having this feeling of the priesthood, of being a seminary, and from one day to another, everything just changed.
Whoa.
I think because you yourself, John, were also working before entering seminary, right?
Yeah, for a good long time. But I'd kind of been cooking on the idea of priesthood for a long while and was kind of discerning the long way around, which don't recommend it. I don't know, it happens to people. But it kind of hit me in the midst of a spiritual experience. I had a moment toward the end of senior year of high school where I'm like, whoa, does God want me to be a priest? I kind of felt a conviction that I had to somehow be on the front lines of helping people be happy in this world that's very difficult, and that took me over, and I was thinking about it really hard, and I told my parents, hey, maybe I don't need to go to college, maybe I need to go be a priest. And then I sought spiritual direction, but I didn't have a spiritual director at the time, so the guy I went and asked, what should I do with my life? He's like, have you applied to college? Yeah, I'm all set up. Don't burn your bridges, kid. Because it was like 1 month before the end of school. And so on his advice, I kept discerning and I went on to college. But I carried that with me in there. And that moment hit me like a freight train, just kind of alone, reading a book in my room or something. When did it hit you, Javi?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember I heard in a priest once say that you never forget when you experience Jesus. Because even in the Bible, they're like, at 3 p.m. is when Jesus called me. In the Gospels. So yeah, for me it was a Sunday Mass 2 years ago in the summer when I remember I just felt it. It was something that I had never felt before. It was not an experience that I was expecting because I wasn't looking for it.
Wow.
And I think that's what made it even more attracting. Because I was fine per se. I had my college. I was working. I had no struggles, no nothing. But But yeah, after that call, it's a complete change of life.
Wow.
Dang.
That's amazing. And yeah, and for myself, since you were asking like when you first
When did
thought
it
about
hit
it,
you?
I actually started thinking about it when I was 8. I was actually,
Whoa.
it was either the first or second time I was altar serving when I was young, and just watching the priest say the words of consecration as I was kneeling there waiting to ring the bells. It just hit me in that moment, just like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it since then it's been just thinking and processing and discerning, much like y'all. I was thinking in high school of like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Thinking of seminary as a possibility was still very much in the forefront of my mind. But I think this is where I differ from both of you. I actually entered seminary right after high school.
Whoa.
But it was with a religious order. So not with the Archdiocese of San Antonio. And we can see how that worked out because I'm here. But it was very enlightening in its own way because of the experience I had with the religious order. And similarly to y'all, it wasn't until I was already with my degree and working that I decided, like, hey, maybe diocesan life is for me. And I think I was like 5-6 years outside of already being in formation that I decided, hey, let's try this again. Let's enter with San Antonio and do that.
So you went with the religious order for a while and then left for a while?
Yeah.
And what were you doing in there?
In between, you mean?
Yeah, what was your gap job?
Yeah, so funny enough, I left in the middle of my college education, so I finished that first. And I might have told you, but I haven't told you. I actually got my degree in theology, which, surprise, surprise, I'm here. But between graduating and entering, I actually did missionary work in Ireland, working with a parish, doing both religious education and music ministry. And then after that job, or ministry, I was actually working here in San Antonio at a parish, because it was during the COVID lockdown time. So I was actually doing a lot of streaming and digital youth ministry before I entered here. So in a way, all these kind of different things prepared me to come back into the formation and all that. So yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize, how long have you been at Assumption Seminary now then?
I joined, what was it, January 2021?
Whoa,
So
that's a lot more recent than I thought. I kind of thought you'd been there the whole dang time.
No.
No.
I have been here longer than some of y'all that are now here, that are on the podcast. I'm one of the, I guess, older guys within the San Antonio Seminarians, which is odd to think about. But
Okay, older or more long time in this diocese?
fair enough, longer time in the diocese with formation.
Because I happen to know you're not the oldest sitting here.
No, but that's fine. So Javier, just to continue on our own stories of discernment and all that, you this year have been part of the Propedeutic program. For those of you that might not know what that is, it's first, it's hard to spell. Second, it's a new year within the formation process given to us by both the Vatican and the U.S. bishops, which is a year of formation to focus on the human aspects of formation plus the spirituality. We did not get that, right, John?
No.
So you are actually part of the first class within the San Antonio Seminarians that have done the Propedeutic program. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I actually don't know what you guys did most of the year.
No, yeah, it was a new year, like Eric said. A very year where the academics is very low to almost none.
Wow.
We would take 1 class a semester, 2 classes a semester. So the academics was not the priority. Like it may be for you guys that you take five classes a semester.
Or more.
That's excited for that next year. But like Eric said, this year was to focus on the human and spiritual formation at an early stage of formation, to be able to keep all that throughout your formation throughout the years. Because what they've been seeing is that if you go straight into studies and all ministry, you never really have a chance to look at yourself and at your vocation as one. You always just see your vocation. You always, study ministry. But once you get to know yourself better, you understand your vocation better, in a sense that you see your gifts and what you want, not just for yourself, but what you want to do for others in this call that God has given you. So the human formation aspect has been very enlightening for me, at least, because I get to experience within myself new things. And then we have the spiritual formation, which is always amazing. We have every day we would have spiritual classes or something like that, to that extent, where we build our relationship with God. We edify it for the years to come. So this whole year is just the foundation for what is to come, so that at the end of the day, everything just doesn't collapse on you.
Wow.
Dude, I kind of like, it's from the program of priestly formation. This is the 6th version. It's PPF 6. That's our version of the instruction manual for what the seminary is supposed to do to you. I like this idea a lot. My propedeutic experience was very, very limited because we were moving between different vocational directors, and there wasn't a standard out for what this program is supposed to do for you. So mine was kind of a weed out program. So there's a discussion group that meets monthly. That's the Melchizedek Project, and that helps you learn what discernment is and what vocations are. And that gives you the tools to think about your own inclinations and abilities and think about, is this what God's calling me to do? That gave me a lot of useful skills, and that's what helped me discern that it was time to take the next step. I did my entire degree, still kind of discerning in the back of my head. Ooh, do I want to be a priest eventually? Let's try out something else first. You can do that. I don't recommend it, because I didn't have the tools to even think about, is this the lifestyle for me or is it not? So I did my whole degree, mechanical engineering, and I got my dream job down the road as an engineer, and I was having a great time, and I'm like, man, God, can you please take away this feeling in the back of my head that I should be looking at priesthood? Can you make that go away, please? Because I really want to do what I want to do. I really want to do robots and freedom and movies and maybe marriage. I really want to do this stuff. Why can't you just let me do what I want to do? Please take away this feeling that there's something still unresolved. And so I'm working at work, and I've got my dream job. Man, and eventually I realized, man, I don't care about this work at all. I don't really care about the freedom. I don't care about the money. I just want to help people. At work, I was spending all of my extra energy trying to help out my workmates who seem to be having a tough time. I want to be there for them. I want to help them through their struggles. I want to help my friends from my church and outside work to feel good and be happy. I want to teach them about Jesus and wisdom and stuff. That's all I cared about. And then I'm like, oh, okay, God, well, if a priest is about teaching people about Jesus and how to be happy and wisdom and stuff, that is what I want to do. Okay, so God wants me to do what I want to do after all. All I had to do was figure out what I actually want to do. So he helped me gain that insight, and then I went to the Melchizedek Project here at the seminary. Highly recommended, very good. And that gave us the skills to think a little bit further about, okay, is this lining up? Is this really a good fit for me? And it seemed good enough. Took the next step. The propedeutic program as it stood when I started, I still worked my day job. I worked that from 9 to 5,
Same.
But I lived here. And you did the similar thing?
Same. I would drive all the way over to Holy Trinity, which is not a short drive, every single morning to do the streaming and to continue with my with my youth ministry job.
Oh man.
And then come back for all that. So very different from what you were doing.
So you get back from the day at work, and your brain feels a little like you've just opened a pressure cooker, and then it's time for evening prayer, mass, and maybe an evening seminar on some form of prayer or history or something. So I don't know about you, but in my time there were 0 open evenings. And so I get up for a 7 a.m. mass, go to work, come back, 30 minutes for dinner, and then evening prayer, and then a seminar, and then it's 9:30 p.m. It's time to go to bed.
Yeah, quite similar, actually. Although when I was in the discernment house, which was what the propedeutic program eventually became, we'd have mass in the evening and a holy hour in the morning.
Wow.
So because morning mass was like 8 or first streaming. So I actually would do my holy hour way before everybody else to make sure I could make the morning commute out there to start my job and then come back. And yeah, but it was very busy and not the time dedicated to our own self and prayer. Which is interesting.
I feel the same exact way. It was busy. In a way, it's spiritually enriching to really push to experience. It's an ascetical experience, isn't it? You don't need the luxury of free time or sleep. No, really, actually putting those aside for a little while made me really think through, is this what I want to do? And we had to summon our determination and rely on God, right? That's good. With that much to do you feel like your spirituality flourished?
In some aspects, yes, because I was going to adoration, a holy hour, every single morning to start my
cool.
day.
My program didn't have that.
So, but yeah, I wanted to mention something because when you were talking about your job and your need to help people, there's one quote that just kept popping into my mind, and that was St. Augustine's, "My heart is restless until it rests in you." Ooh. And so you were sort of wrestling with that restlessness, and it wasn't until, I'm assuming, you came here that restlessness was sort of satisfied ever so slightly, because in a way, not that you were fighting it, like Jacob and God were wrestling in that story in the Bible, but more you were just trying to find your path, and through that restlessness, God was leading you to where you needed to be.
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of a watershed moment. Still working through what it means to want to help people. Is that exactly what's in my line right now? Is that my job right now? So there's still development to come. But yeah, it was kind of freeing when I realized, oh, okay, that's what I should do with my life, and this other stuff, work and paperwork and stuff, that is a distraction. And then I was able to ditch it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great point to turn to Javi. Yeah. Did it feel like your restlessness kind of received its answer? How did the transition work for you?
Well, in my case, with the propedeutic, we live here full time. We were pretty much full time here. We didn't go out for work or anything else. We were full time here, a full program, a full schedule. So I think that helped a lot. And the way I hear you guys running to work or running back, because our schedule is pretty much always open, in the sense that you would always have time for prayer, not just as a community, because we would pray as a group, but also private prayer. I think they did a really good job to have those open spaces throughout our schedule where you can have your personal time, your personal prayer time. And that helped me grow, because that's just you. Yes, you pray in community, and that's great, but just being you yourself in this new environment, in this new place, and just being able to talk to God and hear His voice was for me the most enriching part of this whole year. It's the year to just listen and speak to God, and that was for me the best aspect of what we lived here as with my other brothers that were here.
That's amazing.
It is really cool.
Yeah, because something that I really appreciate from what I've learned about the propedeutic program and speaking to y'all, the emphasis on prayer, because we all know, you can't cultivate a relationship with Christ if you're not praying. And that's one of the most important aspects as a priest. Any Christian, really. Earlier this week, we attended this talk from Vocation Ministry, and because speaking about some of the important things in the life of a priest, she spoke to us about a survey that they did of newly ordained priests, and what was one of the most important things that helped them start to discern of that maybe this life is what is for them. And the most important thing that almost all of them said was that it was a priest that had invited them to start thinking. So thinking about that, and just that it was such a high number too, I think 80% it was. Mm-hmm. Are there important priests in your life that like have mentored you, that lit that spark, or any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was my pastor right now, who once I told him that I have this feeling of being a priest or going into the seminary, he right away jumped in, but no pressure. He knew how to really ease me in, teach me what the seminary is, and teach me more than anything what type of priest I wanted to be. Erick, you had mentioned that you had first entered into a religious community, and for me that was the case. At the beginning, I was discerning a religious community because my pastor is a religious priest.
Oh.
He's really nice too.
So he showed me his congregation. He showed me his fellow community, and it was very intriguing. But at the end of the day, yes, I decided to just stay here in San Antonio and live out my life here as a diocesan priest, hopefully. But I still think that still wasn't really enriching the way he opened my mind and my thoughts to the different kind of priesthood I can have. And I well, at least for me, that was the really helpful to really discern this call.
Awesome.
And Erick, you started at a religious community. Was the priest who inspired you a religion?
So when I first started thinking about it, when the parish my family used to go to in Corpus, he was a former religious actually that became diocesan, which is common nowadays. So he actually helped me start thinking about just priesthood in general. We had a religious priest that used to go say mass at our parish from time to time. And then one of my mom's cousins is a religious priest as well, missionary. He spent 20 years doing missionary work in Africa. So it's because of these priests that I started thinking, oh, well, maybe religious life is what I want. And while with the religious order, I met so many amazing, great religious priests. So it was through their example and their mentorship of me and their kindness that was something that not only got me thinking about it, but sustained my vocation even after leaving religious life.
Oh.
And for some time after leaving, I was very much like, okay, I tried this. This is not for me. I'm not going to do priesthood anymore. It was the two priests at the parish in Ireland, very, very kind men, that sort of helped me get back into thinking of maybe this is what God wants for me. Funny that I had to go like 4,000 miles away from here to start figuring that out. But I mean, sometimes that's what's needed. And how about yourself, John?
Father Mulcahy from MASH.
Really?
No, I got hit with the idea of priesthood kind of out of nowhere. I guess I'd always known my parish priest, and he was very good, but it wasn't a direct invitation from a priest that first got me thinking. It's probably my auntie and my uncle. I have an uncle who is a deacon, And his wife was probably the first one to ask me, hey, have you thought about being a priest? And I'm like, well, yes, God made me think of it a few years ago, and then I'm trying to forget about it. Well, you should think about it, she said. And my uncle, who was a deacon, independently said, have you ever thought about being a priest? So they kind of gave me the invitation to think about it. And again, it was gentle, just like you were saying. But, you know, they saw that I wanted to serve people, and I was there to take my uncle to cancer therapy. So, I mean, I was doing some good work there. And so they're like, man, have you thought about it? And that's what Sister Anna and Bishop Gary always say, is it can start with just the invitation to even consider it, because sometimes it'll never cross your mind.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Unfortunately, our time is up. But to anyone watching or listening, especially any of the young men, young women, consider thinking about a vocation to religious life, to the priesthood. Even take time to pray and think about your own vocation if it's to marriage. We need good and holy people, whether that's in consecrated life, religious life, priesthood, marriage, or single. I think one of the biggest things for us has been prayer to discern, and that is important in any walk of life. If you are considering the priesthood, consider reaching out to the vocation office, to Bishop Gary, to Sister Anna. As John mentioned, we have the Melchizedek Project available, and that is a large group of guys all thinking about the possibility of entering the seminary. Not everyone enters. Just because you say yes to going to Melchizedek Project does not mean you're signed on to stay at the seminary forever. So consider it. For anyone, any young women discerning religious life, there are plenty of religious orders here in the city, and in the United States, the rest of the world. Consider talking to Sister Anna at the vocation office. She can help you find what your calling is in life, if it's religious life.
And there's free food.
So yes. So again, thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to any of our other episodes, you can find them on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as on CTSA. And feel free to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. See you again soon. Bye.